Tin hats at the ready, everybody. Respect, please. Respect. I appreciate emotions are running extremely high at the moment. The good and the bad over the Easter weekend. The bad, and it was pretty bad for those of us who went to Swindon, and even worse for me. Never be afraid to laugh at yourself. I lost my first ticket, had to buy another one. The first one cost me 25 quid. The second one cost me 27, £2 more. So that one cost me 52 quid to see arguably one of my all-time top three worst ever performances by Notts County in a league fixture. That was the bad. Much better standalone 90 minutes, as I heard Stell succinctly sum it up on the way home on Monday. 3-3 against MK Dons. Great entertainment, great 90 minutes, played well. We were at it. And I think everyone that watched that game as a standalone 90 minutes would say, really good, really enjoyed it. However, the reality of the situation, 14 games under Stuart Maynard, 9 points. If we extrapolate that, it's a bit of a big word for me, that means over a 46 game season, 30 points. It's actually 29 and a half, but we'll round it up rather than round it down. 30 points, you're probably relegated by February. What do you think? Do you think we can turn this around under Stuart Maynard? Being realistic, you have to aim for playoffs next season. That's 70 points. Can we turn around at the moment a 30-point campaign and make it into 70 points? What do you think? Don't just want sack him. I don't just want say, oh, just give him the summer and it'll be fine. Give some context and latitude to your thoughts on what clearly is a major debating issue. Lots of thoughts coming in. I've also been in contact with some of the guys that put up the banners at the end. And I'm going to read an open letter from one of their guys that's listen to it. It's quite thought-provoking. I think there's some very good points. There'll be some points you agree with. There will be some points you disagree with. The reality of the situation is I think we're going to keep revisiting this situation more or less on a game-by-game basis until the end of the season. And the other thing I can share with you is that, 99% certainty. Stuart Maynard will be the head coach on the opening game next season, irrespective of results between now and the end of the season. That, I am told, is the reality of our situation. What do you think about that? Right, there's lots to go at there, Stell, lots to throw at you. Look, top of the show. And clearly there is a big debate about the head coach, particularly on a day when Plymouth have parted company with Ian Foster, similar period of time, similar set of results at Plymouth. Boreham Wood will be parting company with Luke Garrard after a very long period of time. If, as I am led to believe, that the head coach's position is not under threat, the owners think they've got the right man, the right pattern, the right progress, while accepting recruitment needs to be stepped up in the summer. If that is the case, I think you kind of have an interesting take on this.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've just mentioned to me just before we've come on air that's the feeling you're getting. You've sort of spoken to a few people at the club. If that is the case, and we'll give our opinions on whether that's the situation, a good situation to be in, a good position to be in. But if that is the case, I would like to see somebody from the club come out and say that and give the reasons why, and that can sort of get away with the banners, get away with the split in the fans,
Yeah.
whatever percentage split it is, in that some want him gone and some want him to stay, whatever it is. But come out and kill all that. Come out and kill all that. If that is the situation, then come out and kill all that and say, look, here's our man. We're going to back him, and give the reasons why. I think you then do away with a lot of the diversion, the sort of split in the fan base, if you like.
Yeah.
Now, people won't necessarily agree with it. People definitely won't agree with it, some of them.
Mm.
But you kill it. You kill it. It's like letting a fire smoulder and then it gathers and it becomes a massive blaze. Kill it as soon as you can. He's our man. We're going to go into the new season. We're going to give him the summer. We're going to go into the new season with him, and then we're going to. That's the case now. And here are the reasons. The reasons that we appointed him are still the reasons we're backing him now. And it's not like I'm wanting the curse of the old, the chairman's sort of seal of approval, and then 2 games later get sacked. If that is the situation, come out and say that, and then fans can get their head around it, deal with it. You just have their say. Of course, everyone's entitled to their opinion. And like I said on the radio, I've got no problem with the banners. People that come to games, pay their money, follow the club. They want the best for the club. They're entitled to an opinion, whether that's negative, just like people who are positive are entitled to an opinion. So, but if that is the case, I would just like somebody from the club to come out and say that. Let's be open and honest with the fans. They're the lifeblood of the club. So I think it would kill a lot of speculation and, sort of abuse and a split in the fan base.
Okay, thank you, Stel. Your thoughts on that? So we would have seen, I think, those of the game, that bottom corner of the Kop, opposite the Pavis side, there was a group of supporters who put up banners with a few minutes to go. They weren't using foul language, they weren't abusive, but the gist of it, I can't exactly remember what the words were: Maynard out, BT go home, that sort of thing. Now, that sparked quite a strong response from many fans. And as you've alluded to there, Stel, that look, there is undoubtedly a big divide among the fan base, and I'm sure the players aren't happy. I'm sure the head coach isn't happy. So why should the fans be happy with our current run of form, which, let's be honest, at 95% of professional football clubs gets the manager the sack? We have not won at home under the new manager in 7 attempts, I think it is. I know most of these lads who are in that group. Now, irrespective, I've never put a banner up at a football match in my life, okay, ever, right? But I think that I know those lads, and what I can tell you, they are, for want of a better phrase, Notts County ultras. They go home and away to every game, and I mean every game. I mean Barrow to Dover, Dover to Barrow. We went to Dover a lot of times, didn't we? They do every single game, spend an awful lot of money, and are what you would call true supporters of the club. Their actions have undoubtedly stirred up a bit of a hornet's nest. And one of the guys contacted me today and sent me it's quite a long letter. I propose to read it out because, my views are unimportant. Yours are important, Stel. But I think some of the themes that the guy, which is Jamie, brings out in this letter are quite interesting. I'm sure we'll all have some views, okay? And let's, use the views of our own supporter base to drive the content of this program, okay? So let me read out the letter. I feel like Jack and Ori. Okay. So I stand in the bottom corner of the Kop alongside many other lads who travel the length and breadth of the country and watching Notts, and have done for years, well before our relegation. I've been a season ticket holder for in excess of 20 years. Yesterday, banners were unfurled in the bottom corner from people who love the club and who were genuinely concerned and worried about the direction the club is heading. First of all, the person who messaged Maynard's family before the game yesterday was nothing to do with any of the people there. As a matter of fact, that individual is nothing to do with anyone in the bottom corner where we customarily stand. It is completely out of order. Wasn't even aware of that, but you know my views on social media. For us to be told online that this group of fans are not proper fans, want the club to fail, should stay away and not support the club, or should be banned from having an opinion, or don't care about the club, or we're Forest fans trying to cause trouble, is frankly insulting and laughable. I pay my money and travel to games, and I'm as entitled as anyone else to have our say. Boycotting, this is interesting, hurts the club financially. And a banner or two which is not offensive nor crosses the line is the only way to make voices heard and opinions felt. Being criticised by people who seldom go to games and only interact via Facebook feels cheap. The amount of fans with their heads in the sand is concerning. We've already slipped into non-league once, and a season of struggle may await unless issues are urgently addressed. I thought Dave Bracegirdle's interview after the game was far more questioning and tackled concerns about results and performances. Personally, I feel we are on a slide, and 2 wins in 13 speaks its own story. The entertainment from Bradford and MK Dons aside has been poor. I'm staggered how well crowds have held up. 2 wins in that period is relegation form, and the season should simply not have tailed off the way it has. The regression has been alarming, as has been the willingness to accept this fall in standards from sections of the fan base who appear afraid to question where there are clearly issues. Losing games comes with the territory of watching Notts. No one expects us to win every week. But to still be chasing a home win this far into a reign speaks volumes. Something is very clearly wrong, and the squad's inability to replicate the results of his predecessor speaks volumes. The need to put down Williams and big up Maynard is equally as bizarre. That's a theme that we'll be discussing later, because I do think that's a very valid point. We seem to be in a process now to protect Stuart of trashing the reputation of someone who a year ago was quite literally a god among the eyes of 100% of Notts County supporters. We'll talk about that in a bit. I feel the manager is out of his depth and has not demonstrated any success in progressing the football club or even maintaining momentum in his time here. The season, unfortunately, is a complete write-off and feels a huge missed opportunity. Can anyone tell me a single aspect of play or a player who has improved thanks to Maynard in his time here, or an aspect of the club that has benefited from his management? As you've previously alluded to, the notion of a rebuild that will magically solve all of our issues is concerning. For me, Notts have experienced recent success by following 2 clear types of signing. Either players consistently performing at a lower level and making the step up, like Langstaff, Scott, Austin and Bujrami, who we paid small fees for. And then the second type were players who consistently performed at a higher level and either were plagued by injury like Jones or had a more nomadic career and needed a base. With this summer's recruitment, we appeared to lose our way, with Crowley and McGoldrick being the 2 exceptions. Recent recruitment has been baffling, signing injured players who couldn't break into teams at this level with predictable results. We are 40 games in and still don't know who our best keeper is. The prospect of higher price season tickets is inevitable and will be a cost to be swallowed. But going into a new season without lessons learned by a manager who is not a winner, nor has a winning mentality, nor demonstrates an ability to draw on previous success at professional level is alarming. The club do not have anyone with a strong football background to be a sounding board or to complement the data. An Aidan Flint type figure and players who can mix it and engage in the dark arts is sorely required at this level, as we are simply too nice. I'm sure lots of you will have some thoughts on that. Stel, I gave you a sneak preview. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, you sent it me through about an hour ago, so I did have a read. I thought it was a very good letter, very well, formed a letter. Shows my age, email or whatever it was. Look, again, it's people's opinion who care about Notts County. They genuinely, deeply care, and they have an opinion on what they're seeing, on what they're watching, and what they're paying their hard-earned money to look at, so they can have an opinion. And quite a lot of it I would absolutely agree with. Some of it I would question. Some of it I would say, like all of us, we sort of, we manipulate things to suit our argument, our view. But I think in lot, I've got no problem. I said to you, and I said on the radio, I have no problem with the banners. I thought yesterday, I thought the fans were amazing, fantastic. Given what's gone, like you say, the position that we were in, I think everybody went there with a bit of trepidation before the game. We knew what potentially a bit of egg on our face, a record that was unwanted, could have been achieved. It was been avoided, thankfully. But I thought from minute one, the fans gave the players everything they possibly could. And yesterday, as not has always been the case, and this was one of my big gripes, is the fact that, the players gave everything back to the fans in terms of the performance, the effort, work rate, and quality as well. So again, as I raised on the radio, I know not everybody listens to the radio and can hear it because they're at the game, but that raises the point to me as where has that performance been over the previous 6 home games? You know, in terms of intensity that we know that they can play at, and the quality as well, and that attacking threat that was there. And this is against one of the better teams, informed teams in the division, not the likes of Sutton, who we went down to, and the teams that were near the bottom that we've lost to in this run. So it was a much improved performance. But as far as that letter goes, and that opinion, that is absolutely fine. People pay their money, they watch the club, they want the best for the club. And if that opinion is different to your opinion or my opinion, that's fine. It just is worth as much. You know, so they'll have an opinion, but they also have got to allow other people to have a different opinion, because that's all it is. It's opinions. But that is absolutely fine. I thought, look, banners come out as a result of the frustration of where we're at, the frustration of the run. It wasn't done in a way that would negatively affect the team. It wasn't done from before the game, throughout the game, anything like that. So I've not got a problem with it. Like I say, being in professional sport, being in professional football, you know the sort of gauntlet that you run if results don't go your way. Stuart Maynard will know it, the players know it, and you have to be thick-skinned to it. Now, you can't let it bother you. It's got to drive you to be more determined to turn things round. You know, the minute something happens that is negative and, it's too much for me, you're never going to do it in professional sport. So, again, it's not ideal. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, let's advocate this, let's have more banners. But I'm just saying it's an opinion and it's freely held. It's not done to be derogatory to the team or to the club. And the bit where he mentions, absolutely rightly, boycotting the games, boycotting paying money to the club, that does affect the club negatively in a financial sense. So, as far as I'm concerned, you pay your money, you're entitled to your opinion. Doesn't make your opinion better than other people's opinion if they disagree with you, but you are fully entitled to your opinion. And if it's expressed in the right way, not got a problem with it, because, like I say, we aren't talking about play school. You know, this is professional sport, and people pay the money, and people earn money, and it's that sort of cutthroat arena. But that's what makes it as exciting and enjoyable as it can be, and frustrating and annoying, and all them emotions that we go through with professional sport.
Very good stuff. Let's go to the message boards and get some thoughts from our flock. Luke Beardsley, I'd have loved for Stuart to do well, but I don't think he can get us promoted. Lippy Jane, I don't agree with the banner. Jurgen Halligan need to keep that MK Dons performance until the end of the season. Otherwise, I feel he has to go. Season ticket sales will suffer if not. Matt Arnold, we need a defensive restructure. It's okay to have a ball player. Luke Beardsley says, I don't agree with the banner because I don't think as a person he deserves to be treated this way. Ian Cooksey, quality additions to the squad would be the starting point. Maybe free up Maynard to play his style and not be dictated to by whoever. Ian Hayward, I think Stuart Maynard will stay and will lead us to success with recruitment and a change of style in play. Dave Woolley, take half of the goals conceded off and we'd be fine. The defence is the issue, and it's up to recruitment to assess to address the situation. Andy Adcock says, head coach has to relieve Aaron Naman of his defensive duties. Time and again, Crowley is looking for him outside, and he's not there because he has to defend, and he can't catch up when we break. Chris B, the guys with the banner lost any support by making it personal with the look, I think, which is a reference to a word that Stuart uses in his interviews. Luke Beardsley, a lot of the goals have been individual errors. With a proper defence, I think he would get a more fair chance. Matt Arnold, we need a defensive change. One ball-playing defender, one horrible sod defender. We're far too soft defensively. Get that right with Palmer and Scott back, we will be fine. Colin Metcalf makes a good point. I think the club has vastly underestimated the quality of League Two. Something I'm guilty of, he says, as it's a much higher quality than I remember when we were last in it. Stephen Andrews says, give the coach a decent chance to make a go of it with some new players, although I think the Boreham Wood manager is excellent. Nigel Cameron, another straight 60 feet and SM stays in charge next season, ? Well, I, for one, won't be watching. That's what I am led to believe. The brothers and the management at the club believe they have the right man and are going to see this through with him. L. Char Baker worrying for next season. Langstaff and Jones will be gone, if not Crowley. I'm not sure these players are playing for him at the minute. I bet our recruitment next season will be dire. Turn on Maynard, ? Says Steph Mylock. I'm really torn. Went to Crawley and Swindon away, and yes, individual mistakes, but football also woeful, and the subs questionable. Dale Pike. Sorry, you can see now with Mr. Maynard in charge at the start of that next season, you can see season ticket sales dropping like a stone. Shane Walker, whoever is in the dugout come August, as always, I will be there supporting the team. Derek Flowers, maybe the players and management had a meeting after the Swindon debacle and some home truths were told both ways. It was a much improved performance Monday. Senga Schmidt, I'm sorry, it's 99% of goals are personal errors. Read his CV. He has been sacked by sides 3 leagues below us out of his depth. To David Amy, if players seek to leave the club, we are looking for 3 million plus to buy new players. Oh, God blimey. I hope you're right. Kay, my big concern is our best players, e.g. Macca, Jody staying at the club if Stuart Maynard is staying. Lots more. We'll pick them up. Another thing I want to pick up on, Stal, get your thoughts on this. As those of you would know in the flock, I I've always taken, ever since, supporting Notts when it was Jimmy Cyril and then it was Howard Wilkinson, that the single most important player at any football club is the manager. I think a successful manager imbues the character, their spirit, and takes control. Now, I do detect, a lot of people that would be strongly supportive of Stuart, would say it's got nothing to do with Stuart if the players make a mistake. Yeah, he cannot legislate for individual errors. Now, it might be controversial. I really, really, really strongly disagree with that. I think a manager can put the fear of God into certain players. He can dictate tactics. He can take some of the decision making away from players. And I'll give you an example. So when Neil Warnock was here, players were prescribed specific things to do and not to do. So Alan Paris could make the mind, played right back, played left back. As a back line, when the ball came towards them, if they took a touch, they were fined at the end of the game. But at the end of the game, by Neil to collect all the tenors, 20 quids or whatever it was. They were told, ball's coming to you, clear it, put your foot through it, best quality you can, channel ball down the line. Don't you dare take a touch, lose the ball, I'm fining you. And so that kind of decision-making process was taken away from the players and they were given a clear edict and a clear instruction. And part of me, I don't know whether this is right or not. If you look at Sam Slocum, and I'm sure Sam, hands up, would say it was a horrific error for that second goal at Swindon. But probably a large proportion of Sam's career before this role at Notts, he wouldn't even think twice. It'd be hoofed down the pitch. But now it is ingrained into him at Notts that he's got to try and look, don't give the ball away, try and retain possession, look for an angle, create this, in much the same way as Scott Robertson, when he's got the ball, decides ordinarily, down the line, no problem. Puts a crossfield ball or from the left-hand side towards the goal. And if you notice, their centre forward, he's already stood somewhere near the penalty spot. So, I mean, even if Sam Slocum's on that left side, it's still an incredibly dangerous ball. But that's because Notts are taught to play in a certain way. So for me, the manager is responsible for 99.9% of everything that happens on a football pitch. Because if he don't control it or attempt to control it, if his decision-making processes and instructions are not rigidly followed, what's he doing in the dugout? I know you'll disagree with me, Stal, won't you, about the number of errors, but how much responsibility does a manager, a head coach take for all of those things on a pitch?
Look, ultimately, it's the manager, the head coach that takes responsibility because it's his team, his style of play. Like I say, I think we've got to be careful of going down the route of comparing anything today to Neil Warnock, who was a great manager with lots of success, but the game is totally different. And management. Hello. Yeah, there's me Alexa coming. Oh, there we go. That's going to be blaring. Yeah, he was a great coach and has been a great manager, and had lots of success. But management styles, the era of football has totally changed. And having the fear of God put into players, that's right, it might work. Your goalkeeper might well hit 60, 70 yards up the pitch, but it won't see any of the intricate quality goals that we've got it because players will also be running scared of making a mistake. That sort of fear factor worked maybe 30 years ago. It doesn't work now. Now it's all about releasing the fear. Not playing with fear, playing with freedom, playing the way you can. But again, that doesn't also exonerate any coach or manager from any mistakes being there. You've got to look at each mistake and individual error and say, where's it come from? I'm thinking about, and I don't want to, again, it's not about causing a pile on, I said this on the radio, but the third goal yesterday, Aidan Baldwin makes a decision to stand and try and play Harrison offside when the ball gets, or nearly is about to get poked through. That isn't necessarily coming from the coach. That is a player making a split-second decision on the pitch. What he didn't know, Aidan Baldwin, and what was the mistake and why the decision was wrong, was that Jayden Warner, his right-sided centre-half, was level with him, as deep as him, but he wasn't aware of that. So he stepped, Jayden Warner didn't know, and obviously Harrison was through, he's onside and he's one-on-one and finish as well. Scott Robertson playing the pass at Swindon, you could absolutely say, look, and I was getting very frustrated on the radio, like the way we were trying to play, I think overplay based on the pitch, based on the condition of the pitch. There were bobbles everywhere. It wasn't easy to play. Exactly. That pitch played as badly as a pitch as I've ever seen. I know Stuart said after the game that we played at Bradford and done all right. Swindon's pitch was more awkward to play on than Bradford's. I'll tell you that from a footballing, passing the ball perspective. There were bobbles all over the place. So I would have wanted somebody led by the coach, but also players make decisions on pitches. Look, let's not do that because it goes astray. Players are ultimately responsible. Ultimately, will get take responsibility for the mistakes they make. You make a bad pass, shoot when you should have passed. Give the ball away. Make a mistake. It's you that's made the decision to do what you're doing. You are not robots when you're on a football pitch. Yes, you follow a framework. Yes, you're given guidance. Yes, you are told this is how we want to play. This is the positional situations we want to be in. But in a game, you are making split-second decisions, thousands of them, and you'll make some right and some wrong. The better players make more right than wrong. But you are not thinking, what's the coach told me to do here? Because that's got to be taken on board. That's got to be in you within the framework. So there is shared responsibility, shared culpability within it all. It's not all down to the coach. It's not all down to the player, but the player has to take a large responsibility for certain errors that are completely out of control of the coach. You know, you can look at any goal and see a mistake being made, but is that from coaching or is that from a split-second decision? It's very, very difficult. You've got to treat everyone in isolation. You know, on the positive side, on the other flip side of things, every goal we score, nobody gives a monkeys about the mistakes we forced the opposition into, and we don't analyse that. Is that the coach? Is it the player? Who cares? We don't care. It's generally good play from us, we like to think. But on the other side, we've got to find culpability somehow, and it's not always easy. It's not always straightforward. Like I say, I would be more critical. I think probably the most critical I would have been of Stuart Maynard's time here at Swindon because of the pitch, and I think you have to play the conditions. I'm not saying we should have gone into a long ball team. I'm not saying we should have hoofed it 60, 70 yards every time. We haven't got them sort of players. But as I said on the radio at the time, 3 passes, one switch of play, pass from right to left or left to right, and then we go forward and we looked across the halfway line and play in the opposition half. That's where I think you've got to make slight differences to your play. Swindon, I thought, were at their weakest when you put the ball into we put the ball into their box. That's where the goal came from ultimately at the end. And you need to be higher up the pitch to do that. So get the ball there. Again, it's not hoofing it there. It's asking player to look. Let's just be a little bit more direct. Let's try and play forward. Let's get it through the lines, but pass it. It's not about hiding. It's not about, I won't need to show because the ball's going to go 60 yards and we look for second balls. But sometimes in League Two football, you have to have that option. You have to have that ability about yourself to play a little bit forward. So I would be more critical of him there. Yesterday's mistakes, you go, do you know what? For me, they're more player mistakes. They're more player mistakes. And it's not about creating this blame culture, but everybody has to take their share of blame. I spoke to somebody coming out of the game yesterday who absolutely swore blind to me that the players were on their holidays. Even after yesterday's performance, which you wouldn't say yesterday at all, but was saying that basically over the time of Stuart Maynard's reign, that he thinks one or two players, well, more than one or two, have basically down tools on occasion. And you know what? You go, I wouldn't necessarily agree, but I couldn't convincingly disagree. So again, different people have got completely polar opposite views on exactly the same thing as we're all seeing. And it's difficult to try and lay blame. It's not about laying blame, it's trying to accept blame and then try and improve. Can we be constructive in where we can improve? And like I say, some people want that improvement to be a change of coach, change of manager. And others will go, no, it's got to be a change of the players in the summer. And I think, I think everybody would agree with the second one. You'd get a split division, should I say, of people who agree and disagree with the first.
Let's get some thoughts from the message boards. Steph Milek says, what position were we in when Williams left compared to now? I think when Luke was left, we were 5th, and the one game with Jim O'Brien, and we were 6th when Stuart took over. We're now, I don't even like looking at the table anymore. We're in the bottom half, aren't we? 15th, is it? Paul says MK Don's style of play suited Notts as they came to attack, which left us space to exploit. Harrogate will sit back and hit us on the break, and I think we will see us again go back to a slow build up. If the manager is still here, says Kay, season tickets aren't going to sell well. We should not have played Bostock on Monday. He's not good enough now, says Nigel Bosworth. Luke Beardsley, why could we perform like that against MK but not Swindon, who were in equally as bad form as ourselves? Robert Smeaton, the letter from the flag unfurler, that's a good phrase for him, I couldn't agree with any more. I had to work that one out. I think he means he agrees with it. Yeah, I'm trying to double negative or whatever. David Amy, have these players said they want to leave? If so, where are the clubs prepared to pay the asking price? That's a discussion I think a lot of us would have in terms of the ability to create players moving on and open up slots for players to come in. I think it's a considerably more complicated than we might think at this moment in time. James Ford says that banner soon disappeared when we equalised, and those same supporters were then back celebrating. After yesterday's performance, no way you can say players aren't playing for Stuart Maynard. And I think if you base it on those 90 minutes, James, I would totally agree. Conversely, for those of us that were at Swindon and those that had to pay twice, you would say it was an absolute disgrace. And I think one of the interesting things, because there have been some games, Stel, where we've played very well, but one of, I think, the frustrations has been, Newport, we were both down there, we won, fantastic. We lost 5 on the bounce after that, right? Lost 5 on the bounce. Okay. We then played really well at Bradford. I say Easter resurrection. Have we turned the corner? Get pelters, right? We haven't won since then. I mean, clearly we are so desperate for 2 or 3 consecutive good results and performances. But each time, you'd never have known we played that well the previous game, would you? It was massive chalk and cheese over Easter, massive chalk and cheese from winning Bradford afterwards, and massive chalk and cheese from winning the thing. What do you put that down to? Well, I know you can't. It does seem quite ironic that you kind of get a solution for 90 minutes and hey, fantastic, we've cracked it here, and then quite literally we fall apart for the next 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is the $1 million question, isn't it? And then that's at the fundamental, is the question of which side of the fence people fall, where you apportion I don't like using the word blame, but where you apportion sort of the faults, if you like, and what percentage. Newport away, Wrexham away, even though we lost, I thought performance was good. Yesterday, performance was absolutely fine. Bradford away, performance was really good. Where does that come from? So if you're on the side of Stuart Maynard's out of his depth and you want him sacked, where did them performances come from? You're basically saying that is just the players using their ability, getting their heads together, and going out and performing, right? Conversely, let me have a think of some of the less good performances. Gillingham at home, Crewe at home, Sutton at home, sort of Wimbledon at home. And then performances, again, is that the players then down in tools and not playing because it's still Stuart Maynard at the helm? Or, is no Stuart Maynard, he's given them a bad week in training, he's picked the wrong team, he's done some, and that is it. And I'm saying, the honest answer report, I do not know. So I've had plenty of people come to what's happened to Notts County this season, what's happened to the fell off a cliff, and I'm saying I honestly can't believe it. Like I've said on here before weeks ago, I couldn't see us losing or not going 5 games without winning all season. I've been proven wrong on that, so that's not the first time. But I couldn't see this drop off going, and I really am at a bit of a loss as to why it is. And the only thing I can sort of try and guess and put myself in the picture of is a little bit of mentality from the players, because the ability's there. They've shown the ability is there, but but part of a player's ability and a team's collective ability is actually producing that, and not just once or twice, but for 46 games of a season, or as close to 46 games of a season. It's called consistency. It's what we all look for. So part of it comes down to, obviously, the players aren't good enough in terms of physically might be good enough, and skill-wise, technically wise, they're good enough. But in terms of mentally getting it out of themselves, mentally producing what they're capable of, are they good enough? Have we reached levels? Like I say, and again, we're going to fully load that at the defence, or the defensive side of the team. Is the balance of the team right? You had somebody there mentioning about take Aaron Nemann's defensive duties off him, because then he could concentrate on attacking, and he'll be in them attacking positions. I'd say the same with Jody on the other side. But then there's another conundrum about how you set the team up. Stuart Maynard tried changing it to a back four to do exactly that. And we produced one of the best performances of the season at Newport, but then lose 5 games on the spit, or don't win for 5 games after that. It's this unbelievable juxtaposition of while they've been good, really good under Stuart Maynard, they've also been poor under Stuart. And where do you blame it? Is that solely Stuart Maynard? And some people will say, yeah, he's got to take the blame, and that's your view. And is it the players? Is it solely the players? And if you believe that, then that's your view as well. Of the players down tools, or some of them, or some of them not really pulling the weight, or some of them don't like him, or so, whatever the reason being. Or for me, I think the reality is, like I say, it's shared culpability, shared responsibility. That everybody's got to book their ideas up, because the results tell you that, okay, individual mistakes lead for it. I'm not really swallowing the bad luck thing. I don't think that's a great excuse or reason. We haven't been having loads of good luck, but you make your own luck. I'm a believer in that sort of thing. So I think everybody takes a bit of blame. It's certainly not good enough. That is the one thing we're all in unison about. It isn't good enough. Now, what can be done about it? There's obviously going to be some sort of turnover of players in the summer, but how big and how wide? Again, you go back to your sort of complete overhaul. Is that possible? Have we got the budget to do that? Who knows? But yeah, it's not been good enough. But again, the reason behind it is the $1 million question. And if I knew the answer to that, then I don't think I'd be sat here, Paul, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, look, where I start to come down on the side of there is an issue, a fundamental issue with this head coach, is that you talk about this group of players. Well, this group of players, okay, we lost the first game of the season 5-1 at Sutton, then got themselves into the playoffs and stayed in the playoffs until the moment Luke Williams left. And I believe when Luke Williams left, I think it was 3 points off automatic, and we're in the playoffs. Okay. And where I think that Jamie on the flag unfurler, as he was referred to, where I think he does have a good point, is I do detect people in their desire to protect Stuart are kind of starting to trash the reputation of Luke Williams, which I think is really, really, really unfair. And I think to an extent, these players, there's nothing wrong with this group of players if you are in and around the playoffs in January. We all know there's been issues with defending. I remember I asked you the question about, can we carry on conceding the number of goals? And you said, normally 9 times out of 10, no, it'll catch up with you. But you never know with this group and the way that we play. And, whichever way you look at it, results have fallen off a cliff with the appointment of Stuart. There are clearly mitigating circumstances, but I noticed in the interview with Dave Bracegirdle yesterday, Stuart said we'd lost 9 of the last 14 to kind of present a scenario, manipulate statistics to say, well, I'm not much worse because we've lost 9 in 14 or whatever it is. Look, the reality is you've got to compare apples with apples. And when you look at those 14, 15 games that he was trying to draw the analogy with, there were 2 or 3 cup ties. Now, if you compare the last 14 matches, which I've done, of Luke Williams, we got 19 points. Okay, won 6, drew 1, lost 7, 19 points. With the 14 games that Stuart's been in charge, we've got 9. Now, 9 to 19 is worlds apart. And I do think you have to look very seriously at the head coach, because it's not like Macaulay Langstaff's got injured. Yeah, it's not like Aidan Baldwin's been injured for 8 games. It's not like we've been decimated. You look at Wimbledon. Wimbledon sell their best player, the Iraqi international. Oh, they're going to fall out the picture. Don't worry about Wimbledon now, we say. They're still up there. They lost their best player. So I do think you have to look very, very closely at Stuart and say, this is a ridiculously poor points return. And what's changed? We've got a new head coach. We've not had 6 players out injured. In theory, we should have a better squad of players as a result of the January transfer window. Now, I totally agree. I think it was let down with what we brought in. But there are players that we've brought in. Robertson's done fine. Some bad games, some good games, but he's put his place in. I'll be the first to admit, Jatta has surprised me massively. He's probably got 4 more goals than I thought he would have by the end of the season. Yeah. So I do think you have to look very, very seriously at the head coach and ask yourself, is he someone that wins games of football? And I do think there is I don't know what you call it, some have it and some don't, and he, like Ian Birchinall, has got to do something at a higher level than he's previously ever managed at, that he's never been able to do further down the pyramid. Because getting 45, 50 points next season, for me, is a failure. You've got to be aiming for playoffs next season. So for those of you who asked for my 2 penneth, that's my 2 penneth. Any thoughts, Steph?
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. He should be being questioned. You've got to look at the head coach. That's the scrutiny that comes with the position. And you're absolutely right about, the last 14 games under Luke Williams, yielded more points. And you're absolutely right.
Substantially more.
Yep. But also, if my maths is correct there, we lost 8 out of the last 14 of Luke Williams games. We lost 8 out of 14. Stuart Maynard's lost 9 out of 14. But granted, we haven't picked up the wins. And you're dead right about that point. Can he become a winning manager with Notts? Now, then something else you look at, again, my old analogies of jigsaw pieces and parts of a team that fit together. Do they fit with each other? Do players complement each other on the pitch? Or do they, are they abrasive? They're not fit? Stuart Maynard is obviously a decent coach. He's done whatever badges he needs to do, the same badges that all managers and coaches do. So he's learned the same ways. But I think the word you may be looking for is, does he have that persona or aura about him in the dressing room that gets the players respect and gets the players giving that extra, whatever percent you want to put it on, 5% for a manager that, what we want to run through brick walls for him? Or, as evidence of my own eyes, and I can only say this, yesterday looked like a team of players that wanted to run through a brick wall. The old, which is a little bit of a lazy question. Are they playing for him? Are they playing for him? Now, after Friday at Swindon, I think people who want to level that thing would say that didn't look like a team that's going through brick walls for the coach. And then you see, it's not exactly the same team, but the personnel is largely the same, few changes. But then you see a team on Monday, 3 days later, that do look like they want to run through brick walls for the team. Now, to me, that is, can he motivate them day in, day out, week in, week out to perform regularly enough? Has he got their respect? I don't know. Only the players could answer that, and they can only answer that with performance levels. That's the bit from being in dressing rooms. That's the bit that we always trot out the line of, you've got to be professional. Every professional hates losing. I'm not going to be convinced any way other that pros nowadays, they can take losing. They don't mind it so much. I'm guaranteeing they hate it. I would bet my bottom dollar they hate it. But you're always up against opposition who hate it equally, and they've got a plan who they think is just as good to stop you. So then it's about, that's where the coach, the manager comes in. Does he drive you on? Does he drive you and get the best out of you? And that's where I think there are question marks. You could read bits about, and again, it's not about trashing Luke Williams. These are the stats. You've read out more points in his last 14 games than the first 14 games under Stuart Maynard. But then you could argue Luke Williams had been in the position for 15 months. By that time, he got his feet under them, knew the players, knew the club inside out. Stuart Maynard's, these are his first 14 games. Look, and that's not me coming down the side of Stuart Maynard, because I've said I would want to review Stuart Maynard's position at the end of the season. I don't see the point in sacking him now. Season's gone. We're not up, we're not down, we're not doing playoffs. I don't think that benefits anything. I don't think you're going to get a manager in now that's available that you can't get in at the end of the season. There'll be more to choose if that's what you want to do. But I would throw the gauntlet down and say, look, I want to see improvement. I want to see that you as a coach, the results have not been good enough. You know that, we know that, everybody knows that. But I want to see that you can go in there and these final 6 games, you can motivate the players. That if you think they're on the beach and they've got the flip-flops on, they're not really giving it all, you've got to get a performance out of them. Because it'll only be the same midway through next season or the first 10 games of next season, but it can happen. If you can't motivate now, why should we trust you through the summer to believe you can motivate in the summer? You can coach well, that's not under question. He's gone through the process of being selected to be the successor to Luke Williams, who I thought was a really good coach, a top coach, and a motivator for Notts. So what he had 3 months ago when he got the job, he's still got that. But is it the fit between him and the coach and the playing staff that just doesn't work? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not saying that is the case, but that's a question mark for me. And it's a question mark that needs answering. And it can only ever be answered by results on the pitch. So, again, if the decision's been made that Stuart Maynard's in charge next season, at the start of next season, come what may, then I'd like the club to come out and say that, and somebody else put their head above the parapet to deflect away from your head coach taking all these arrows and brickbats and all the criticism, and then people will argue about whether it's the right call, the wrong call, but at least you've got time to get on board, right? Well, that's where they're going, and then people make their decision whether they buy a season ticket or not, make their decision where they come. But then that puts a bit of added scrutiny on that recruitment in the summer. There's going to be scrutiny on it, there always is, but there's added scrutiny on it because what you're saying, that if that's right, if we could lose the next 6 games and he's still in charge for the first game next season, that to me says, don't worry about it because we're going to have such an unbelievable summer in recruitment that we don't need to worry about the fans that we'll but alienate by having a manager they want gone and will threaten not to buy season tickets and maybe won't buy season tickets. We're going to recruit so well that they'll start believing again and get that optimism back and that momentum and that hunger come the start of the season. Again, and then you're back down to looking at the scrutiny of the recruitment. But whoever is coaching, whatever the coaching situation is, there is going to be scrutiny on the recruitment in the summer because, as we've all spoken about, and we have done for weeks, it needs an overhaul. It needs improvements made in the defensive side of the pitch, and whether that's the defensive balance of the team or the personnel, certainly personnel, but the balance and the setup of the team and the makeup of the team, that's got to take a lot of scrutiny and it's going to take a lot of hard work to get the necessary players in. I think everybody mentions going back to that letter, the Aidan Flint type defender. Well, everybody mentions that, but who is the Aidan Flint type defender? We'll all have ideas potentially, but you've got to go out and get them, and they've got to be within the budget. So it's not easy. It's never, ever easy. And everybody's always looking for a black and white answer. Yep, sack Stuart Maynard, get a new coach in, everything will be rosy. But at the same time, we can all pretty much say, well, we have an overall of players in the summer, doesn't necessarily mean that's going to solve it. Yet some of us, or some people, will believe that just by changing the manager, the head coach, it will solve it. And then you're down the side of people who think, well, he's been given a bit of a duff hand. Luke Williams couldn't stop goals being conceded with his team and these players. And then you're down to the recruitment side of things of what came in January to plug them gaps, and it's not been able to do it. So, look, all these things go hand in glove in a football club. They're parts of a jigsaw piece that need fitting together. And the bottom line is this season, we need to win some games between now and the end of the season to try and avert such a catastrophe of a season. Finishing 17th, 18th would be a disastrous season, really. When we were talking about playoffs, and Stuart Maynard talked about playoffs and promotion when he came in. Joe Palmer's spoken about it when he came in. That has been the mantra of the club. That's what we're looking for. So if you set that as the mantra and the goal, where we are, if we finish 16th, 17th, 18th, is a poor season. Maybe disaster is too far, but it's a really poor season, disappointing season, and people will have to answer questions about it, and you can expect criticism from fans in all areas because of it, because they're all wanting success, and we haven't got it.
Words of wisdom as always, Mr. Stallard. Let's get a few more
Sure.
thoughts from our flock. Dale Pikett says the situation we find ourselves in can be diagnosed with accountability at the club as follows: 1, the owners; 2, the recruitment; 3, the 2 coaches we have had this season. Zedo says after a decent effort Monday against MK Dons, we play a team Saturday who will play on the break. We've struggled against that type of team. SM has had time now to address that. Poor result Saturday. Can the brothers keep ostriching? Yeah, there's another word for us. I think I know what you mean. Head in sand. AD Clark, Swindon was an easier game to get the win. Could have took forget that one. I can't know what he means. Right. Royston, if certain players want to leave, they need to step up or no one will want them. Gaza Lee, evening Gaza. I spoke to a Stockport fan at Strensham. I presume he means services on the way back from Swindon. He agreed Notts were the better side when we went up to Edgeley Park before Christmas. Can't understand how we have dropped so low. He said surely Notts should be the big fish next season. Dale Pikett, I've seen a stat if games finished at half time, Notts would be 7th. That's a pretty useless stat. Not quite as useless as possession-based stats. Have you noticed that possession-based stats have now disappeared, haven't they? Have you noticed no one mentions possession now as being an important metric on the basis we've lost all these games, and we've all, I think, possible exception Crawley, we've had the lion's share of possession. Andy Adcock says Jatta has the potential to become a bit of an icon at Notts, but does anyone else think that for a big lad he looks a little lightweight? Stephen says takes a positive view. I honestly think that Stewart is learning his trade and will come good if given the chance. And that really is the $64,000 question. It's, how long do you give him? How low can you go as a club? I would venture to suggest if you're producing this return next season, he ain't seeing the season out. And more, the real problem, and I think this is where some of those guys in the corner are getting particularly worried. If we have a bad start next year, and let's not be full of doom and gloom, we start badly next year, then we are battling relegation for the rest of the season. And you need 45 points to stay up. This season, under Stewart, we're averaging 30. So I think that's kind of a lot of worries that some of the fan base has. Paul Smale says, I think that Stewart has the respect of the lads in the dressing room, but only just. Do I think he's a League Two manager? No, I don't. Robert Smeaton, couldn't agree more, Paul, regarding his SM a winner. It's a whole lot different at a club where there's higher expectations from a club considered very much the underdog with minimal pressure. There needs to be a statement of intent from the owners, says Nigel Cameron, echoing your thoughts, Stell. Eddie Wainwright, Luke Williams was well aware of the defensive frailties, but freely admitted that if he put more emphasis on the defence, the attack would ultimately suffer in terms of goals scored. Magpie says, when will we hear something from the club? Right, Joe Palmer, yes, spoke with the club, among others, today. I've been on the phone 6 hours today. So, yes, Joe Palmer is coming on the show next week. I think we're probably going to do like a one-off special with him. Got to get all the fine details sorted out. But, yeah, Joe Palmer on the show or doing a show next week. So that will be interesting, I'm sure. Great point, Stell, says Nigel Cameron. Also in the Stell fan club is Jürgen Halligan. Robert Smeaton. Stell has absolutely nailed it with the question, will players have respect and run through brick walls for him and get that extra few percent out of players? He then goes on, no, in my opinion. Need a big build-up. AD Clark, even AD. It's rare that a manager gets an opportunity This is a good point. It's rare that a manager gets an opportunity to take over a team that's a promotion contender. It's looking inevitable next season is going to be more difficult for SM. And this is the thing where I think it's a very unfair is the wrong word. I think it's a very disingenuous comparison with one of your former managers, Stell, Sam Allardyce. When Sam came in, yes, he came in towards the end of the season and didn't do very well. He didn't get many points. What people gloss over is that Notts was something like 22nd or 23rd when he got the job, and they were relegated in 23rd. I think it absolutely is worth pointing out, even allowing for defensive frailties, we're in the playoffs. Now, if you're an incoming manager, do you want to come in with a team that's 22nd, or do you want to come into a team that's 6th? I would respectfully suggest it's a no-brainer. Paul Smales, I must say, and I feel that others may disagree, but if owners wanted a new manager or made an announcement, it would have been done before now. Royston, the brothers will have their fingers crossed for Stuart to succeed, or they will end up with egg on their chin. I say face, but maybe you're from a different part of the country, Royston. Steph Marlek, I'm not torn anymore on Maynard after listening to Stell's thoughts. Not good enough. He needs to go. There you go. He's not happy. Ahoy Pinoy. That's an interesting one. It did take us 4 seasons to get out of the National League, so we have to be patient to get out of this league. As long as we get out of the league the right end, all right, ahoy Pinoy, I think that is a concern. We don't have the same finances like Wrexham or had the time such as Stockport and Mansfield. Stockport are only 1 year ahead of us, don't forget, only 1 year. I'm sure that Stell isn't happy as the getting merchandise is stockpiling in the club shop ads. Right, we're coming to the end of the programme. I hope everyone's enjoyed it. I'm glad to have got through it because I wasn't quite sure how to play tonight. Right, Harrogate Saturday, Stell. We kind of alluded to it earlier in the programme, and I know this is an impossible question to answer, but please try. What Notts team are you expecting to turn up on Saturday against Harrogate in the context of the 3 best games we've had have all turned out to be false dawns?
Yeah. Well, that's again, who knows? Because the inconsistency has been the only consistent, hasn't it? One thing, and again, I'm going back to ground we've trodden over, but I would put up for one of the worst performances of the season was away at Harrogate earlier this season.
Yeah.
Just a terrible, dreadful performance. So they need to improve. Every game is a challenge. Every game, whatever level you play at, every game is a challenge. Again, I think we were spoiled in the National League because we were better than that level generally. Yeah. And we've seen this season how Chesterfield have ran away with that division, with a bit of money, with a bit of, money and resources, you can run away at that level. You step up into the league where everyone's professional, everyone's full-time, you get a lot tougher challenges week in, week out. And we found that. I would expect Notts now that ridiculous. I mean, I know it's another home game, and the chance of 6 consecutive home defeats has gone. Yeah. Now that sort of monkey has gone, that's off our back. I want to see the team play as they played Monday. Absolutely flat out, play the quality. Show that you're a better team than Harrogate, who beat you at their place, who are above you in the league table. But there is no way on this earth that Harrogate is a bigger club, better club, or got a bigger budget than we've got.
No.
And that's something, again, we've not really spoken about. Clubs should always align themselves. How are you doing performance-wise related or relative to your budget in the division? You said we're a year behind Stockport. I dare say we're a fair bit behind them in budget, in playing budget. But I take the point you make. Absolutely.
In terms of progression.
Yeah, absolutely. But conversely, Harrogate are above us in the table. Nowhere, their playing budget will be nowhere near ours. So again, we are underperforming. On any metric you want to use against Notts, we're underperforming. So again, as part of where I'm sat at the minute, I want to see Notts perform between now and the end of the season, even though on the right, you could call them dead rubbers. There's nothing exactly on it, but professional pride, your future as a professional player, and your head coach's future. And then again, that players will know that, and that can be significant in your mannerisms. How much are you hurting yourself? Are you doing it for you, for the club, for the manager? What is your performance? What's your and to do that, it's not about not being in possession of the ball. I like to notice more about what we'd like out of possession of the ball, because that was one thing under Luke Williams. He advocated more than anything. Yes, we can play. We've got good quality players. Don't think anybody's denying that. Certainly in terms of the attacking sense. How hard are we working? And I'm including them attacking players. How hard are we working out of possession of the ball? Is it comparable to how hard we were working in the first 3 months of the season? And again, I would dare say, no, it's not been. So what do you put that down to? Is that the manager or the head coach not being able to motivate, or is it the players down in tools a little bit, taking the easy option? I'll play when I've got the ball. I'm not going to do. I'll do enough when we haven't got the ball, because you can't get away with that at this higher level in the professional game. You'll get found out. So I want to see us get out the traps. There should be no fear playing Harrogate at home. And after I think yesterday built a bit of confidence in the lads. I would think, yes, we conceded 3. Yes, the mistakes, but I think they should go into Saturday with that monkey off the back about the consecutive losses, and go into that and think, look, let's finish strong. Let's finish this season strong and try and harmonise the fan group. Let's try and get a few fans back on side. I know it's too late, too little, too late, but that's what the players should be. That should be their motivation. And let's go and win a game, and let's go and get 3 points and go six games on the spin at the end of the season. But let's go and win a game. That's your first and foremost, your mentality going into any game.
Yeah, I think of the 6 games left, Stallard, you'll know this better. It's 4 at home, 2 away, isn't it?
That's
4
right.
at home. And for me, I can see absolutely there is no reason stopping us playing that same tempo, intensity, purpose, attacking rather than just keeping the ball for the sake of possession in our own third. There's no reason at all why we should not do that Saturday. And I will genuinely be very interested to see whether we can put 180 minutes of proper football together, because we haven't done it yet. We haven't done it. I thought that 90. I know. Look, someone, James Cartwright's just said conceding another 3 at home is still shockingly bad. It is. But for the 90 minutes, I think you could say we were largely at it. I think MK Dons with the triple substitution. Glad that striker wasn't playing for more than about 30 minutes still. Got saying we could have been in a bit of trouble. Hey, what a finish, by the way. The chip, I have to say. Did you admire that one? Was that how you would have finished that one, Stel?
No, absolutely. I want a shot from that far, and I certainly wouldn't have had the legs to run through. But great finish. And let's not forget the first. What a finish the first one was as well. After a little nutmeg on Aidan Baldwin. And I have to apologise to Carl Cameron. I called it as Carl Cameron in the game on the radio. Corrected it second half, but I thought it was Carl. It wasn't. It was Aidan. Not massively at fault. Not at fault at all. But what a finish! And then, like I say, presented with a chance after the mistake. Great finish from Harrison, the lad. So. Yeah, again, look, we know that frailty, don't we? We always know there's a chance we're going to concede, but there's always a chance we're going to go and score 3 or 4 as well.
Adam Kent says, thanks, chaps. Let's see what the season brings at this point. Enjoyed the match yesterday. Haven't enjoyed going to the Lane for a while before. AD Clark, Macca should be motivated to get that golden boot. 5 games left, said Ian Cooksey. Apologies. Royston, he's full of beans. Why should the players bust a gut when there's nothing to play for? Disagree with that one, Royston. Disagree with that. We are back scoring, though, says Paul Willits, in response to conceding 3. Jurgen Halligan playing for contracts or being released. That's what the players have got left. Look, we should wrap it up there. Thank you ever so much for listening. Hopefully people feel a little bit better. We've been able to experience both sides of the coin tonight. Let's see what these final 5 games. I mean, normally I would agree with you. I mean, because it largely not under the radar, because Stel told us weeks ago we were definitely safe. But mathematically, that was the point that got us there, given Sutton kept winning. So look. I do think there's a fair bit riding on these 5 games. I do think there's a fair bit riding on them. Let's hope we can get some points in the bag, and most of all, let's just have 2 home back-to-back performances, and hopefully 4 points out of the 6. Stel, thank you as always for your time this evening.
Pleasure, no problem.
Yeah, we shall all be at the lane, and if you've got any spare bed sheets, get some Stel in and hold them up.
Don't bother with that. Don't bother with that.
Get in.
I'm not there this Saturday. I've got something on. I've got an event on, so I've got time off for good behaviour. So I won't be there this Saturday. I'm just missing the one game. Yeah, I'm not there.
Oh dear. Right. Well, don't bring your Stel get-ins this weekend, because it will be launched.
Don't do that ever.
Your next game then will be what, Walsall away?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Hey, well, have a good one, Stel. Thank you, everybody.
Cheers.
I look forward to catching up very soon. Cheers for now. Bye-bye.
Cheers.